So all scientists, particularly if they're funded by public money, should think about the implications of their research for policy or for other kinds of societal benefits. But for me, that doesn't mean that all scientists should continually be thinking about how to translate their research into policy. Their job is to do scientific research, so they should have an eye on it and they should exploit it when the opportunity arises. But sometimes the very best bits of scientific discovery come from this less directed research, come from them thinking more innovatively and broadly about the wider area in which they're working. So keep an eye on it. Some people are funded specifically to do policy, but everyone should think about it in terms of how their research benefits society. So one of the biggest problems of science in policy making is it very quickly confronts the different value sets that occur within the scientific community, within the policy community, and then in some of the people who are on the receiving end of the policy making. And so many of the issues that we face that are problems are not actually to do with the scientific evidence, they're to do with these different value sets. The second problem that I think is really important to understand and that overlaps with that one is the timescales involved. It takes a long time to do science well. It takes even longer to get it into policy, and that can be frustrating for the policy community, and it can be pretty annoying for the scientists involved, but it's part of a rather complex process that can't be achieved overnight. So one thing that I think is really important fundamentally is to be open to opportunities if you're interested in policy, particularly to look at the kinds of issues that are top on the policymakers' agenda and look for opportunities to engage and work with them. And in particular, for young scientists, there's a whole host of internships, fellowships, placements, that operate at this science policy area with a very easy way to start working at that interface. So I was involved in the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, which ran from 2000 to 2005, and that generated the UK National Ecosystem Assessment, which ran here from 2009 to 11, and it very quickly led into a government white paper, the Natural Environment White Paper, that was produced by the coalition government. And that white paper said we're going to put the environment at the heart of government decision making, and led to some very important policy changes. So that was, I mean, that may seem like quite a long period of time, but that set of activities from 2000 up to about 2011 did have significant policy change. I mean, I'll highlight a couple of very direct and more obvious ones as well, because I think historically they're very interesting. The really strong science that led into evidence that PCBs and lead pollutants are accumulating up the food chain and led to regulatory and legal changes really quite quickly. And similar on sort of a more environmental side, the evidence about depletion of the ozone hole, the fact that this was caused by various kinds of ozone depleting chemicals, CFCs and so on, and again led to policy change. So particularly with very striking, clear-cut issues like that, it can happen very quickly, but even in the case of the ecosystem assessment, it took place in a period of less than 12 years.